In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, I bear witness there is no God but God, and God is the only one who has the right to be worshipped. I also bear witness that Prophet Moses, Prophet Jesus, and Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon them, are the messengers of God, and I seek refuge in Allah from the rejected Satan. So greetings of peace, and thanks for tuning in. May the peace and blessings of Allah be with you. So in these videos, we prepare for the coming of Imam Mahdi, as well as the second coming of Jesus, peace and blessings be upon them, also known as the Mashiachs. So in this video, I'm going to make it in two parts. This one is going to be more referring to the hadiths, and then the next part, inshallah, next week, will be the laws of war within the Quran, to help us prepare for the coming of Imam Mahdi, as well as the second coming of Jesus, peace and blessings be upon them, also known as the Mashiachs. It's important because we know that there's going to be some war, there's going to be some battles. The greatest battle of all, also known in the Bible as Armageddon, will occur in the time of Imam Mahdi, his rulership. So it's going to be very important to know the laws of war, and also know the hadiths that refer to that time, what basically was going to happen, and the outcomes of these battles. So I'm here at this website, gabe.com, if you want to check it out for yourself. I'm going to be reading a portion of this. I feel it's very well done. I've done a lot of research in hadith and listened to a lot of lectures, a lot of scholars that discuss the end times with Imam Mahdi, and as well as the second coming of Jesus, peace and blessings be upon them. I feel it's very good. It's quite authentic. I feel it's quite accurate. So I'll just go ahead and start reading, and if you want to subscribe, please do so, and if you want to be notified for my next video, which will be the second part of this, which will have the Quran verses of the law of war, which give us the understanding of the rules of engagement in war according to Allah's commandments, our posture, our strategies, and stuff like that. So once these events begin to unfold in front of our eyes, it won't be long until we know when the Dajjal, Allah's curse be upon him, will actually appear, because many hadiths give specific years between events. The Great War, Armageddon, will be fought against the Romans. There will be a global force of Europe in their time. Their term Romans is a designation for the direction and location of the enemy Muslims will be facing. Since the Roman Empire no longer exists, and the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, was given the news ahead of time that Muslims would defeat the current empire in the Quran, in the opening verse of Surah 30, the Romans have been defeated. Chapter 30, verse 1, the Romans spoken at the end of the time are similar for Europe in our time. In the world today, that power is the European Union, which is fast becoming a dominant power in the world. The European Union currently consists of 27 out of 50 or so countries of Europe. Some of the countries which are part of the European Union are France, Germany, Greece, Italy, Portugal, Ireland, Romania, Serbia, Spain, Switzerland, Sweden, Ukraine, and the United Kingdom. Europe's first altercation with the Muslims during this time, as hadiths mention, will be when they place sanctions upon Syria. Afterwards, they will again place sanctions on Egypt, which will be the initial steps towards the Great War. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said there will be a devastation all around the world. Ultimately, Egypt will also be ruined, but until Baghdad is destroyed, Egypt will remain secure. The destruction of Basra will be due to Iraq's destruction. The city will be destroyed because the country will be invaded. This account mentions that Egypt won't be destroyed until the city of Baghdad is destroyed along with Iraq. This occurred after 2003 with Iraq's complete loss of independence, and ended in 2011 with the pull-out of Western troops. The war cost Iraq their country and resulted in yet another minority group being put into charge of the majority in a Muslim country. Eventually, after this event, Europe, who will be seeking to impose its dominance on the region as the Americans did, will place sanctions on Syria and then again on Egypt. Around this time, the Euphrates will uncover a mountain of gold over which there will be another great battle between the Arabs, very similar to the Iraq-Iran war. So, just to interject here, Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, mentioned for us not to fight in that war because 99 out of 100 will die fighting for that goal. So Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, mentioned not for us to fight or go after that gold in any way or shape or form. Al-Hakim narrated from bin Abbas that he mentioned the story of the Mahdi and said, "And the earth will cast forth its precious valuables." It was said, "What are the precious valuables?" He said, "Cylinders of gold and silver." What is clear from all these narrations is that the Mahdi will appear after the following events. They will occur within a few short years of each other. The throne of Saudi Arabia is fought over by 3 sons from amongst its rulers. The Euphrates River will uncover a mountain of gold, and Muslims in the region will fight over it, most of whom will die. Sanctions are placed on Egypt after they are placed on Syria. The people of the East, Afghanistan, and the surrounding area will march across Arabia with black flags, conquering all the Arabian land, stabilizing the region until they reach Jerusalem and conquer it. The people of the Maghreb, Morocco, Tunisia, and Algeria will rise up to stop Europe's oppression of Egypt, beginning the first of the wars between the Muslims and Europe. A hadith says there will be more than one warlord during this time. When one is defeated, he will be replaced by another, all in less than a decade. It will be during the second civil war of Saudi Arabia that Imam Mahdi will emerge. When the Sufyani warlord sees the Mahdi, he will send an army against him from Sham. The army may contain European soldiers in it, but Allah will cause it to be swallowed up by the earth before reaching him. And this is the third major sign of an earthquake mentioned in the hadith. So there'll be 3 major earthquakes, and they're referring to this major earthquake in the Arabian Peninsula will be the one that swallows up the army sent by the Sufyani from the area of Sham, which is roughly Syria. When the people see this, they will know that that person is the Mahdi, peace and blessings be upon him, because this is the most famous sign that the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, mentioned would establish his identity. The first to go to him will be the saints of Sham and Iraq, the best people of Islam in terms of Ihsan, human perfection. During the time of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, were those who recognized the truth first and accepted it. Their good nature allowed them to discern justice from falsehood. In similar ways, the best people of Islam today will recognize him first and go with him. They will pledge allegiance to him. Then a man from the tribe of Quraysh will rise up, whose maternal uncles are from the Kalb, the ruling tribe of Syria. This is another minor warlord. He will send an army against him, but the many will defeat it. The Imam will then head towards Syria and kill the Sufyani in Palestine near the Sea of Galilee, the lake of Tiberias. These are the initial days of the Mahdi's rule. The Mahdi will send the first battalion he formed to fight the Turks, who are part of Europe and invade Arab lands. It may also mean Russia. He defeats them and takes what they have from spoils and money. Then he marches to Syria and conquers it. Then he frees all the slaves, possibly war prisoners. He has and gives their owners their value, pays ransom for them. Although the translation may say the Turks, this can refer to either Russia or Turkey, the hadith, because the word Tartar, their present-day descendants are the Turks, Mongols, Manchus, and southern Russians. It may also be that One hadith is referring to Turkey, like the Turkish invasion of Egypt, which is across the Mediterranean from them, and these set of hadiths refer to Russia, which is just north of Azerbaijan and the Arabian Peninsula. The following hadith makes it clear this is the case. Russian will invade Arab lands, while the Turks invade Egypt as part of the European Union. You will reconcile with the Romans after all these initial wars through a security treaty. Then together you will invade the lands of the Turks, the Russians, the Kurmans, the region currently known in Iran, and Allah will conquer them for you. We know from many Sahih hadiths, with certainty that the country of Turkey won't be invaded and conquered by the Mahdi until Armageddon occurs, which is, after all these events, so the Turks in this narration must be the Russians. Turkey is also trying to join the European Union, so the treaty would apply to them. You will enter into a reconciliation treaty with them for 10 years. You and the Romans will invade an enemy located behind Constantinople in Turkey. This is a location of Russia. When you return for that invasion, you will see Constantinople, meaning the armies will pass through Turkey on their way to Russia and on their way back. Then you and they will invade a city in Iraq and cause devastation in it. It's possible Russia had conquered it at this point. Then you and the Romans together will invade some of the people of the East, Iran, and other narration state. The Sufyani will fight the Turks, the Russians. Their eradication, uprooting will be at the hands of the Mahdi, and the first battalion formed by the Mahdi will be sent to fight the Turks. The Turks Russians will make 2 invasions. One of them will be in which they will devastate Azerbaijan, and in the second one they will reach the shores of the Euphrates. This is possible when they conquer Iraq. After the conflicts over Egypt begin, we would make 3 different truces according to the hadiths. With Europe, all short-lived. Eventually the Mahdi will make a 4th truce with Europe after defeating all the warlords in Arabia. This truce will last for about 7 years, taking up the majority of his time on the earth. During that time, the Mahdi will establish and strengthen the presence of Islam on earth. We will then help Europe attack an enemy beyond them that is attacking them, more likely Russia. During the truce, the Mahdi will conquer the entire Arabian Peninsula and Iran, but eventually this truce will be broken. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "You will make a firm truce with the Romans until you and they wage a campaign against an enemy that is attacking them. You will be granted victory and great spoils. Then you will alight in a plain surrounding by hills. There someone among the Romans shall say, 'The cross has overcome,' whereupon someone of the Muslims shall say, 'Nay, Allah has overcome,' and shall go and break the cross. The Romans shall kill him. Then the Muslims shall take up their arms, and the 2 sides shall fall upon each other. Allah shall grant martyrdom to that group of Muslims. After that, the Romans shall say to their leaders, 'We shall relieve you of the Arabs intending genocide,' and they shall gather up for the great battle of Armageddon. They shall come to you under 80 flags, nations or groups, each flag gathering 12,000 troops, roughly a little under 1 million soldiers in total. Once Europe has broken the 7-year truce with the Muslims, this will result in the Great War, the Malhama, the Armageddon. The Prophet said, peace and blessings be upon him, "You will make a truce, a peace with the Romans, and they will conquer an enemy from behind them, Russia. You will be safe and you will achieve spoils when you will descend in a fertile soil, and soil that has many mounds in it. A man from the Romans will stand, raise the cross, and say, "Victory is for the cross." A man from the Muslims will rise and kill him. The Romans kill the Muslim after he kills the Christian. At that point, the Romans will betray their agreement, and there will be a massacre. The agreement is between the nations. These two men from each nation are not just the representatives and acted on their own behalf. Only those in charge can resolve the truce, and it was resolved after Europe decided on genocide rather than justice. They will gather for you, advancing forward to you 80 banners. With each banners there will be 10,000, roughly 800,000. The difference is more likely than that, likely because of later narrations of the hadith was not certain of the words. A look at Europe today would show that it comprises of less than 80 countries. These hadiths indicate that other countries from around the world would be invited to aid them, possibly through NATO, which is possibly a military alliance of the UN. This force will consist of roughly under 1 million troops under 80 different flags. If this is the case, then it becomes clear that the eradication of the Arabs, the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, spoke of, was agreed on to by the nations of the world who are now joining in. It is also possible that each European country will rather offer more than one battalion under separate flags, possibly a flag for each of unit in the Air Force, Army, and Navy. Europe will be gathering their forces for 9 months, and the Muslims will be gathering their armed forces in Iraq, Syria, and Yemen, and the Mahdi will then send the Mujahideen, Muslim fighters, to engage them when they invade. Once they blew a red storm in Kufa, and there came a person who had nothing to say but these words: "The hour has come." He, Abdullah bin Masud, was sitting reclining against something, and he said, "The last hour will not come until the people do not divide inheritance and rejoice over booty." Then he said, pointing towards Syria with a gesture with his hands like this: "The enemy will muster strength against the Muslims, and the Muslims will muster strength against them." I said, "You mean Rome?" He said, "Yes. And there will be a terrible fight. The Muslims will prepare a detachment which will not return unless victorious. They will fight until darkness intervenes. What remains of both sides will return without being victorious, and both will have been wiped out. The Muslims will again prepare a detachment for fighting unto death, so that they may not return unless victorious. Then it is the 4th day, a new detachment from the remnant of the Muslims will be prepared, and Allah will decree that the enemy will be routed. The Bible similarly says that they will be captured. They would fight such a fight, like that of which has not been seen, so fierce that even a bird were to pass their flanks, it would fall down dead before reaching the other end. The fighting will be so fierce between these huge armies, in contrast to other wars, that most will be killed in 4 days, nearly 2 million soldiers. There will be such a large-scale massacre that when counting will be done, only 1 out of 100 men related to one another would be found alive. So what can be the joy at the spoils of such war, and what inheritance can be divided? They will be in this very state of loss for some time afterwards, when they will hear of the calamity more horrible than this. A cry will reach them: "The Dajjal has taken our place among your offspring." They will therefore throw away what is in their hands and go forward, sending 10 horsemen as a scouting party. Allah's apostle, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "I know their names, the names of their forefathers, and the colors of their horses. They will be the best horsemen on the surface of the earth on that day, or among the best horsemen on the earth, on the surface of the earth on that day." Before the great war begins, Europe will come to the Muslims and will say, "Do not stand between us and those who took prisoners from among us. Let us fight with them, hoping to avoid the greater battle by only taking the European Muslims who converted, an indication of their racist and bigoted mindset, as the time that the only people that would matter are those who left their religion, as if an insult. The Muslims will refuse, saying, "By Allah, we will never hand over our Muslim brothers." The Romans will then attack Syria, causing heavy casualties among all the Arabs in that region. Hadith says the Romans will then say during the war, "We will not cease fighting you until you bring out to us every one among you whose origin is not from you." They will try to take back and imprison the non-Arab Muslims, many of whom are from Europe, having converted to Islam. So the European Muslims who converted will come out and say, "Allah forbid that we should go back to unbelief after Islam." The oppression of Europe during the end times is prophesied in the Bible. It will be a cause for many in Europe to search for the truth, for a religion that has been preserved from its first days and isn't oppressive. They will accept Islam, leaving Europe and the path it has chosen for itself. The Europeans will then bring the Great War, and that is when Allah will send down his punishment on them. 3 times during the Great War they will come out at the Muslims. Then finally Allah will grant the Muslims victory. A third of the Muslim army will first flee, and Allah will never accept from them the repentance. A third will be killed during the war, and they will be the noblest martyrs in the sight of Allah. The surviving third will be victorious, never to suffer defeat thereafter. After the Great War, they will then go on to conquer Constantinople, Istanbul, without having to fight. The battle will last 4 days. Each day the Muslim troops will take an oath that they will not return except as victors. For 3 days they will fail to defeat the army, with many men becoming martyrs. On the 4th day Allah will cause Europe to falter, be routed, and succumb to a tremendous onslaught from the remaining Muslim troops. A hadith says Allah will command Jibril along with 70,000 angels, Mikael with another 70,000 angels, and Israfil with another 70,000 angels to help the Muslims against Europe, just as they helped the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, at the Battle of Badr, Islam's first victory. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "You'll join hands with a Roman group and war with another. Europe won't entirely be united. You'll gain victory. At that time you will be present in a plain of great mountains and plenty of trees. In the meantime the Romans will raise their crucifix and refer their victory to it. At that time a Muslim will become angry and will pull the crucifix down, at which the Romans will unite again, breaking all treaties with the Muslims. The Romans will demand they want the converts of the people, to which the Muslims will answer, "By Allah, they are our brothers, we will never hand them over." This will start the war. 1/3 of the Muslims will run away. Their repentance will never be accepted. 1/3 will be killed during the war. They will be the best martyrs near Allah. The remaining 1/3 will gain victory until under the leadership of the Mahdi they will fight against the non-believers. This group will be among the Kurdistan, ancient name of Afghanistan, and the surrounding areas. They will be wearing black turbans. People will raise up from the east who will keep on coming forward, trampling the ground under their feet to aid the Mahdi, to help establish his government. When the Great War occurs, Allah will raise an army from the non-Arabs, who will be greater riders and will have better weapons than the Arabs. Allah will support the deen by them. The above hadith describes them as Mawawi, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, or non-Arab Muslims. This could be the group Europe demands to be handed over to them when they break the truce and attack Arabia. The hadiths mention they will have better weapons, and the Arabs, which is the state of Arab today, the Americans and Europeans lead the world in weapon development and arms development. So what looks like will happen, the Europeans will make a truce with the Muslims and they will fight a common enemy. Obviously, there's lots of Muslims all around the world, and then the Romans, the Europeans, will break the treaty against the Muslims, and then many of the Muslims, so they'll start beginning attacking the Muslims after they start building up their forces. And then a lot of those military and other Muslims, just general Muslims, will shift over to the Middle East or to the camp of Imam Mahdi, peace and blessings be upon them, and they will help fight against the disbelieving army. And those are the ones that the Europeans will be most angry and most want to kill because they reverted back to Islam. So the Messenger of Allah said, "You will fight the unbelievers until a remnant of you, what remains, fight on the river Jordan, you on the east of it and they on the west of it." The state of Israel has as its eastern border the dividing line of the river Jordan. That is the line between the Muslim armies and the non-Muslim armies. Some consider this to be the war in which the Mahdi will establish his Khalifa in Jerusalem, ending Israel, but the words remnant is used in the hadith, which means remainder or what that was left of the Muslims at the time, which is a later event. Narrations clearly state that Israel will be taken by the people of the east. It is hard to imagine that the armies marching from the east carrying the black flags can plant them in Jerusalem, the state of Israel today, without having conquered it first. Indeed, the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said nothing will stop them until they plant it there. Later wars will be fought in that land, and all hadith mention Palestine as the land of the people of the east, which they will hand over to the Mahdi. So it looks like it's mentioned a couple times in this that black flags will come from the east and will take over Jerusalem and the Palestinian lands. Actually, before Imam Mahdi is known. Okay, the Muslims will eventually win the Great War and go on to conquer the lands of Europe. They, the Muslims, will not pass any city without conquering it, declaring Allah's greatness. They will conquer these lands using zikr without fighting until they come to the city of the Romans, referring to their capital at that time. So that would probably be the Vatican. The Mahdi will arrive at Istanbul and set up arrangements for the Khalifa, appointed people to govern, and making preparations for the implementation of the Islamic law after Turkey had left the Muslim community to join Europe. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "The Romans will surround a leader from my pure must children. His name will be the same as my name, i.e. the Mahdi. They will fight each other in a place called Al-Mek, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. The place of the great war is a Tupinidium in the near of Dabik, between Aleppo in North Syria, and Ekinoch in southern Turkey. And 1/3 of the whereabouts of the Muslim army will be killed. They will fight again on another day, and again on the third, or whereabouts the Muslims will be killed. On the third day they will fight again, and the Romans will be defeated. I think that's supposed to be the fourth day. On the fourth day they will fight again, and the Romans will be defeated, and they will remain there until they open the Constantinople. It is whilst they are distributing the spoils of war that a messenger will come informing them that the false Messiah is in their hometown, and they with their children. The hour will not come until 70,000 men of Beni Ishaq, men of Jewish origin, who the Mahdi will send invade it, Constantinople. They will come to it, and they will settle around it, and they will not fight with a single weapon or shoot a single arrow. They will say, La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar. There is no God but Allah. Allah is the greatest. And then the side that is on the sea will collapse, referring to its walls. Then they will say, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar. There is no God but Allah, and Allah is the greatest. And its other side will collapse. And then they will say, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar. There is no God but Allah, and Allah is the greatest. And it will be opened up for them, and they will enter it and take its spoils. From the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, that he said, Allah will cause Constantinople to be conquered at the hands of the people who are the allies of Allah. Allah will preserve them from death, illness, and disease until Isa bin Maryam, son of Mary, descends, and they will fight along him against the Dajjal. It is more likely that these Jews will come from what is left of the Orthodox Jewish community in Israel. The Pashtuns of Afghanistan are descendants of the original Jewish tribes, and many ahadith refer to the Mahdi wearing Jewish clothing and looking like a Jewish man. These ahadith refer to the Pashtuns, but by the time of the Great War, much of their forces would have been spent fighting the wars of Arabia. One of the Sufyanis will fill every valley with their blood, then invade their lands, killing every male until only women and Italy remain. The hadiths mention that they will be present during the Great War. This group will be among the Kursans, but that is more significant than this is that the Jews have a prophecy about the return of Isa, Jesus, which mentions their condition by the time of this arrival, and it's identical in wording to that of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said about them, at the hands of the people who are the allies of Allah. Allah will preserve them from death, illness, and disease until Isa, son of Mary, Jesus, descends, and they will fight along him against the Dajjal. It may be that both groups, having the same origin from the original tribes of Judaism, and as Allah himself in the Quran promises to bring all the Jewish tribes back to Jerusalem by the end, which includes the Pashtuns, who are subject to any promise Allah made to Abraham in the Torah and Bible. They are referred to as one people. We have to keep in mind between the time the people of the East take Jerusalem and the Mahdi arrives, that is 6 years. And between the Mahdi and the Great War, that is about 7 years, which is more than a decade since Jews would have ruled Israel by then. This is a long time for change and people to forget the present situation. There are more hadiths regarding Orthodox Jews, including the fact the Mahdi will bring out the Ark of the Covenant, showing them the original Torah, debating with them regarding the truth, through which many will accept Islam at his hands. It will be after this point in time, when the Muslims have conquered Istanbul, Constantinople, and the news of the Dajjal, Allah's curse be upon him, will begin to spread, but it will be false. As the Mahdi and his men are busy in Istanbul, a rumor will spread that the Dajjal has broken loose in Syria and is wreaking havoc among your families. This news will be very disturbing in the Imam, and so consequently he will hurriedly leave from Syria. In the meantime, 10 men will be sent ahead to ascertain the truth. The Holy Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, referring to these men, I know their names. I know their fathers, the names of their fathers. They will be among the best warriors in that time, in that era. One of them will report, and the story is false, and the Dajjal has not yet emerged. It was a lie fabricated by Shaitan and to try to disrupt the progress of the Muslims. Meanwhile, those who conquered Istanbul, the Jews, will march on and invade the enemy territories of the Western Europe, territories of the Western and Southern Europe, comprising of countries like Bulgaria, Greece, Serbia, Bosnia, Croatia, Austria, Italy, etc. In the same manner, they conquered Istanbul with takbir without using weapons. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "If there only remains but one day left in the world, Allah will prolong it until a man from my house governs. He will open Constantinople, Istanbul, and the mountains of Iran." The Prophet said, "You will attack Arabia, the Mahdi, when he first appears, and Allah will enable you to conquer it. Then you will attack Persia, the Muslims, and the Europeans, and Allah will enable you to conquer it. Then you will attack Rome, Europe's main city, and Allah will enable you to conquer it. Then you will attack the Dajjal with Jesus, and Allah will enable you to conquer him." So that's a lot of information. You can read over this for yourself. You can listen to this video a couple more times to get a better understanding. It sort of gives us a picture of what to expect, some of the battles that will occur, the outcomes, and the triumph of truth, the triumph of submission to Allah, the unique creator of all that exists. And that Allah promises the victory of Islam and the spread of Islam throughout the world. So this is what will happen, inshallah. This has been prophesied by Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Many of these hadiths have already come to pass, like sanctions, Syria, the conquering of Iraq, and things like that. Other signs like the Bedouins in Arabia, the barefoot Bedouins be competing with one another in building tall buildings. Many other hadiths that already have come to pass. So we're just waiting for other ones to come to pass. The Euphrates River is drying up. You can see pictures, if you search for it, that it's been severely dried up significantly. And many others that have already come to pass. So this gives us a better understanding of what's to come, and in next week's video I'm going to be discussing the laws of war within the Quran, strategies that Allah prescribes of His commandments of war. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you take Allah as your shield, and may the peace and blessings of Allah be with you. Thank you so much. Take care. Peace.